Let's get started on the handout. You will find the PDF form located in the link below. So again, I just want to remind you that this is the skeleton that I'm providing for you so that you're able to kind of organize some areas of your life that I'm going to kind of put out there. So go ahead and grab the PDF form if you want. You can stop the video now and grab it and take notes on it, because I'm going to encourage you to take everything that you're going to learn and then dump it into a journal and categorize into compartments like I'm going to kind of show you as we go through this video. So again, I'm encouraging you after this to get a journal, and I'll share in a future video some of the journals and how I actually categorize and use tabs to break these down. But for today, I just want to be able to organize your thinking so you do not feel overwhelmed and you can achieve through believing. So let's go ahead and get started. And we are going to look at number 1, determine your position. Determine your position, number 1. Now, as you're thinking of your position, there are 4 areas that I want you to think of. So we're going to use a chair as a visual. And when you think of this chair, you're going to think of the 4 legs that make up a chair. And you know, if one of these legs are unsturdy, then the chair is not going to serve its purpose very well. It's going to be wobbly. So we need to make sure all legs are tightened. Well, that's kind of the idea of achieving through believing, achieving your dreams. There's 4 areas of our lives that we really need to really focus on. And I'm going to say number 1 is our spiritual. Number 2 is emotional. Some people will call that their mental state, emotional state, and then our social and physical. And if we wanted to break these down further, we could probably find a few areas in each that we really want to focus on, or we feel led that we're struggling in this and we want to make this better. So I know for me, for example, I will always take social, and you'll see that as we're going through this handout, and I break social down into 3 categories. And that is my business, my personal business that I'm working on, work, my part-time job to support my business goals, and then personal, which is my at-home life. And all 3 of these encompass my social schedule. So I had to break those down when I was trying to determine some of the areas of my goals and dreams. So you may find that you have to do that in those areas, but this is just kind of my skeleton to work from here. And you'll notice that in my journals, in my areas that I dump, I have categories for each one of these, and then they're broken down in areas like this. Now, I'm only focusing on a few things for that year. So again, I'm encouraging you, as we're in the Visioneering series now, I will put the link below. Go ahead and check out my very first video for the Visioneering series, and it talks about casting your dreams and getting your vision board together and writing down your top 10 dreams and goals and visions for 2017, because that's the year we're currently in. But I'll tell you that this handout's been in use since 2010 for me. So what I will do is I'll brain dump 10 big goals, 10 big dreams that I want to work on. And then what I do is this is the skeleton that I go through after I have wrote those 10 dreams down. So let's go ahead and look at this handout together, and I'm just going to kind of go through, give you the basics, and then you go have some fun and get this in a journal somewhere. I promise you it'll help you huge. So number 1, determine your position. Go ahead and think about your position in each area that I shared with you. Again, the legs of the chair. And so I would have to say that that Bible verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it says, "To everything there is a season and a time and purpose under the heavens." And I always think about that in my spiritual, emotional, social, and physical life, because God is all about working all things for the good for his purpose. And sometimes we just need to get in line with that. And when we don't, we really have a hard time of understanding what's going on in our season. What is the purpose of this? Why is this happening to me? Why do I feel like, nothing's happening? Why am I going through such a quiet time? So there's it could be a lot of questions that you're going through. That is determining your position. That's what I want you to do. I want you to think, where am I right now in my spiritual life? Where am I in my emotional, my social, my physical? Where are you right now? Are you in a mountaintop? Are you in a valley? Do you feel like you're going through some tension and some pain in a relationship, which could be your social life? Is that affecting your emotional life? Is there some confusion? Are you crying out? Write that down specifically. Maybe there's some areas in your marriage, and that's really taxing on you emotionally. And you want to know, you kind of want to write down, where are you? What does your valley look like right now? If you're in a valley, what does the tension look like? What does the hurt look like? This is your time to determine your position and write it all down. What would you like to see changed in your life? I take that as what could be and should be. What could be and should be in your life. So as you look at the condition and the position you're in, what could be and should be. You're sowing a seed. Again, I talk about what it looks like to sow a seed in the very, very first video on visioneering, on how to sow your dreams and how to even begin to bring them to reality, how to think bigger than what your current situation is. So that's a little bit of what I want you to do. And as you can see, for me, I had to break down my social because where am I right now in my work life? I was working full time out of my college job. About a good 15 years ago, I was working in my full-time job, but had a desire as God was fine-tuning me to start a ministry, to start a business. So I began to dream of what could be and should be in these two areas of lives, in these two areas of my life, along with my personal life, because I was a mom and a wife full time. So it helped me determine my position in all three, and you'll see later it helped me eventually line up and investigate those desires a little further. So very important to really break that down. That's really your time to dump it all out. Number 2, define your purpose. Define your purpose. Where do you really want to be? What do you really want? And how will you know when you get there? So again, you're taking it a step further. So after asking, looking at where you're at right now and what you want to see changing in your life, whether it's in your marriage or with your children, your personal life, your finances, your physical life, whatever that is, you're going to go down to the next and you're going to fine tune it a little bit more. And you're going to say, where do I really want to be? What do you really want this to look like? Psalms 37:4 says, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. So this is time for you to write down your desires. Make your vision clear. If you're going to go to a restaurant and you're going to order, you're going to be very clear on how you want to order your food. So what do you really want? Make it crystal clear. I think of this whole area just like HGTV. When you go there, they ask them, what is your style? What are your favorite colors? What are your favorite pieces? What inspires you? And they take notes on all of that. And when they come back in that room and they did a makeover, there are always tears in the homeowner's eyes. And it's the same picture. God wants us to really get crystal clear. What are some goals that we want to feel in ourselves? What do we want to see when we get there? So again, we're going to break down these areas and we're going to specifically talk. So you can see why a notebook with sectioned areas is going to be helpful, because you can take each one of these questions under each section and really brain dump and sort out your thoughts, your ideas, your dreams, your struggles, your fears, your wonders, your desires. You can sort it all out, and this skeleton helps you do that, because we have to remember that they're His dreams, not ours. He's trying to gently and lovingly bring us into His plan and His will, which is ultimately the best for our lives. So He works through those desires that He already put into us. We just sometimes need to line our life up better with those. And again, it's an adventure, because we begin to learn our gifts and our talents, but we have to take that first step into sorting some of this out. So number 3, discover a promise. And this is going to be important. This is why I always say it's important to be in God's Word on a daily basis. It really is. In church on Sunday or service on Sunday, to be filling yourself up. Because when you discover a promise, it really helps you hold on to the position and the purpose. Because sometimes when we see the position we're in, it can be very discouraging. But it's fun to go ahead and dream bigger, to kind of look at what could be and should be. and really put down specifically what we want to see happen in our life, what we want to see crystal clear. But what happens is we may be in that stage where the season we're in, it could be really a valley. It could be a real tough season. So we need to discover a promise when we're in that season. We need something in God's word to jump out and sustain us in the season that we're in. So we need a verse over our situation. We need a revelation from his word over our situation. So that's why it's real important. And at the end, I'm going to share a habit and a routine that I do to grab a promise from God on a daily basis. But I want you to constantly be thinking, where? So maybe this is maybe you're going to talk to yourself about your spiritual life a little bit and realize, well, I need to really feel like, what do I want here? Do I need to be listening to some faith-based messages? Do I need to get involved in a church for the first time? Do I need to get in a small group? Because this ultimately will line up with everything that's going on in your life. So that's going to be a huge change and a choice that needs to be made. Number 4, describe the prophet. Describe the prophet. Basically, how are you going to feel when you achieve this? And why do you want it? And what is the prophet going to be? With God moving in your life, what's that prophet going to look like? And now, let me make it even more simpler. I think this is really important to understand. There's a fine line here. Because when we're going after our dreams and desires, depending on where you are in your season with God or in your spiritual life, we need to make sure that we're not building our platform. There's a me and a God thing going on here. And sometimes when we're so excited about our dreams, we need to realize, are we building our empire? Are we building our business? Are we building our boss's business? Are we stressed out because we're constantly in work mode all the time? And this fine line of God's always at work in our life. He has gifts, he has talents, and he has callings. We sometimes miss out on this completely because we're on the me or the we, your job or whatever it is, and there's no balance here. So there's really, sometimes you feel like, well, there's no profit in this life. I'm just going to work 9 to 5. I'm coming home and I'm exhausted. And that is not God's best for you either. We need to step back and go, okay, what is God calling me to? And I'll tell you, I have watched many successful people really go through this transition, and they've moved into full-time ministry after amazing jobs, whether they be lawyers or whatever. They moved into more of their calling, utilizing some of their same gifts, utilizing their knowledge and education, but in a different line of work. So sometimes we need to be careful where we're at. Now, let me give my husband for an example. He's an iron worker. So he's estimating jobs on a daily basis. He's working in plants that are building our cars. So we all need cars. We all need that. We all need people that have those jobs. But if my husband was working 9 to 5 every single day and coming home stressed out and forgetting about who he was, where is his position in his family, his social life, his physical life? Really, what is it that he wants to see? If he's drained in all ends and he's feeling emotionally deprived, then we've got to line some things up. He might have to look more at his physical life. He might have to look at his social life, his spiritual life. Is he serving? Is he in ministry? Is he in a small group? Is he with a group of guys where he can be discussing things? It's important that all of that is in balance as we go. And I'll tell you, when those areas are in balance, it is amazing how God shifts things in our life. He just makes small shifts as we're obedient and making changes here. He slowly brings different prophets in and profits us in different areas, shows us different areas that we're going to achieve in, moves our life in a new direction. So if you're dreaming big over here and you're writing some things down that you may not be at, I mean, this is like a dream, a vision in some areas. Why do you want that? And how will it make you feel? So I remember this was a huge struggle for me because I was working a full-time job and a mom. And I remember my husband's like, something's got to give here. And I remember I went ahead and I stopped working my full-time college degree job and I became a mom. And at that time, I began taking a small Bible study. And when I was starting that Bible study, things in my life started to change. I realized the same gifts that I had when I was working in a psychiatric facility, helping people adjust back to the activities of daily living, whether they were dealing with a mental issue, an emotional issue, just a hard time. I began to realize sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And I began to have a heart for people with teaching them in a new way. And so God really showed me that I could use everything that I was knowledgeable for, but my profit was going to be different. The way I was going to achieve it was going to be different. And it was going to be more with God in the middle, but it's me still doing the same thing. I hope that makes sense, but that was really a transition. This skeleton helped me transition into that. And this was actually a handout that was given during one of my Bible studies way, way back, struggling with my position at that time because things were shifting and changing. And so that's when I remember the mentor told me, break down your business, work, and personal right now and sort some things out and start telling yourself, where are you? Where would you really want to be? What is the profit going to be? What changes do you want to make? What do you really like? And so this helped me break that area down so I could begin to see. And I'll show you on the next page. This is where it gets really important. So number 5 says, as we're going through all this, desire in prayer. Because when change is going on, it's really hard to understand where God is at work or where you're fitting or where's the next door going to open up. So I learned that you needed to pray about all of those transition seasons. Pray until something happens. Keep pushing, learning about your prayer life. As a matter of fact, prayer is my word of the year for 2017. Now, some of us are gifted in the area of prayer more than others. I think we all need to pray, but some people are gifted and have a certain touch in the area of praying for faith. And so I reached out to my friends that were in that area, and I've also got some books this year. I'm doing some reading. I'm looking at some verses on how I pray and claim things over my life because I'm still in transition from working my part-time job and also believing in the business that God is building. And so I'm asking God, I'm asking him to give me success this year, to show me, to shut the doors where he's not at work, open the doors, cancel what's not of him, and help me remember that it's, especially when you're building and you're using a lot of social media and stuff, you need to be careful that you're not building your own empire and that God's in the middle of it. So you need those timeouts and you need to constantly praying for it because yes, he puts the dreams in you. And so whether you're praying about your life, your career, your kids, your spouse, your church, your ministry, keep praying until something happens, but realize in that God's design and his plan may be changing and you need to be open for that. Number 6 is design a plan. I will show you in the next video what this looks like because this plan is actually broken down. So in the very first video, again, the link will be below, I talk about writing out your 10 visions, getting a vision board going, keeping them in front of you, putting those 10 things down in a planner. Then you need to begin to design a plan. And it really starts with this piece of handout, with this skeleton. Because after you've dumped all of this and put this down, then you can go ahead and start investigating, maybe picking 3 top priorities, 3 top goals for the year, maybe for the month. And then I always do 3 top priorities for the week. That is going to line up with one of the bigger dreams because we got to break those down into SMART goals. Goals that are very specific and measurable and attainable and reachable during the week. And we're training ourselves to understand those. So you're breaking those. I will show that plan in a future video, but you need to learn to kind of start designing a plan. You are designing by doing this worksheet. You're starting to investigate yourself. You're investigating by looking at your position in those areas, looking at the legs of your chair. You're looking at really, what is my purpose? What do I want to do? How big are my dreams? I remember one season when I was doing this, I was looking at my position with one of my relationships with my kids. And I remembered what my purpose was as mom, but things weren't lining up. We were really, struggling with each other. So what I wrote down, what could be and should be. What did God need to do? And I'll tell you, there were some things as I designed a plan on how I needed to be as a mom and what I needed to pray about and what I needed to really focus on. I remember being in a small group with moms that were struggling with teenagers at the same time. It only sharpened my focus. So when you design a plan around one of the areas back here of your legs that you might be struggling with that I talked about back here, when you go and design a plan might be, well, Maybe I need to be in a small group where I'm studying about that or around other people that are going through that season. I need to get involved in a ministry, read a book about that. God answered in amazing ways. He changed both my son and I. So again, when we're designing that plan, a lot of times God's changing the characters that are involved. There. Number 7, discipline yourself and your flesh. These two, because we're talking about a lot of spiritual stuff here. And again, I'll go back to the leg here. If we're talking about our spiritual life needs to be in order. It's an important leg on the chair. If that's out of whack, it is really hard to balance everything else out. And so here, sometimes we really need to discipline ourself, our flesh, that part of our life, because if we're struggling emotionally and we're constantly, defaulting back to self and how we're going to handle this ourself, then it's really hard to allow God to get in and do his work, that spiritual leg that we need to be working on. So sometimes we're building that plan here to bring God more into the picture, to sharpen us and strengthen us and get ourself out of the way. Very important. So again, when we're disciplining ourselves, what does that mean? Really, what that means is you're getting yourself in such a place where you're able to be silent. So areas that you're going to discipline yourself in is learning to be silent. So you can watch, wait, and listen. And I have in 2013, I've been using this handout. Actually, this is one of my older ones, and I've been using this at conferences and teaching places. So many women have benefited from this. So what areas, how are you getting silent? How are you getting to a place to receive those promises and pray over those? You need to discipline that in your life. Let me share my routine, which encompasses this word, and it also works with these two. Being in God's word is very important. Being obedient, and we're doing all of this, it's really a sacrifice to God so he can do his best work in our life. How do I get on a routine where I can discover God's voice and I can realize life is just not this event that keeps us sidetracked all the time and drains us and stresses us out, but it's really a journey, a healthy journey of wonders, struggles, fears, and desires. But how do we stay in a routine to receive the best for our life? Well, 7-step skeleton to help you begin to brain dump so you can get some things done, so you can reach those dreams and achieve them through believing. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you liked this, if you feel like this is going to be helpful. I'll show you in a next video some of the journals that I use, the A5, some of my traveler notebooks, my filofaxes. How do I kind of take all of this and write all this out and keep it? Like, I don't visit the journal every day. I kind of put it all together at the beginning of the year for me, and then I pull from it for my 10 main goals for the year, and then I break it down, and I'm constantly working on it. It's in front of me. So I'm constantly looking at my position, looking at my purpose, finding promises to hang on, because I know what the profit is that I want to feel in the end. And I know that God is promising me peace and prosperity. And so all things have to work together. We got to kind of come up with a plan. So let me know how you liked this. Leave a comment below. If you have a question, leave a question. Tell me what works for you. Tell me if something jumped out here. Let's start this community going. PDF for this handout is linked below. So happy dreaming, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, it's Heather Baxter here with HB Ministries. Welcome back to my channel. If you're here the first time, welcome. I am still currently in the Visioneering series.